Today we are touring Langeland.
Come along as my Danish husband and our 2 kids show this American what it means to live a life in Denmark. My new Danish life.
Today we will explore the Danish island of Langeland that is in the southern part of the country, surrounded by many other islands. We'll start in the south, where we'll be looking for the home of a beloved Danish cartoon character, finding some Cold War history, and also some wildlife on the island. Then we'll head a little north to look for a beautiful beach and cliff, as well as one of the oldest graves in all of Denmark. A little bit farther north, Science Center, an organic farm that has one of the most beautiful manor homes from the 1800s. Then to the town of Rudkøbing, the island's largest town. And then we will be finishing off our day in Tranekær, where we will find a castle and so much more. We are in Bagenkop at the bottom of Langeland, and we're about to find Rasmus Klump's boat and pancake house. On our visit to Bagenkop, we saw a lot of really beautiful boats, but we realized that it was the one day of the week that the town was closed and there weren't any restaurants open. We found Rasmus Klump's pancake house and were able to go inside, though it was a little bit small. We also found his boat where you could go right on board and even you could fish for crabs. Just a short drive from Bagenkop is the nice prairie area of Skovsgaard. I'm at the top of the tower at the Skovsgaard, and we are here looking for the wild horses. Here you can see some water. And just on the other side is actually a Klint, another cliff, and then the horses are over there. So we're going to try and drive around to the parking lot that's on the very edge just to see if we can get a better view of the horses from that vantage point. But this tower actually gives you a really good view of the area and the land all the way out to the seacoast. Today we're at the Langelandsfortet, which is a museum for the Cold War. We had a great time walking around all the different buildings at the Langelandsfortet. This was actually a base during the Cold War for the Danish Army. You can see more about it. Check my Explore Denmark playlist to find a full video on our time at Langelandsfortet. Now we're in Humble, Denmark, on Langeland, looking for King Humble's grave. It's actually in the middle of a wheat field, so there's a little bit of a walk from the parking lot, but it is a very beautiful view of the countryside here in Langeland, so it's not so bad. King Humble's grave is the largest one on Langeland. It's 55 meters long and 9 meters wide. Now it is said to be the grave of the once King Humble, who would have lived around 300 to 400 AD. But when they actually dug up and found some bones in this area, they determined that they were over 4,000 years old, which would make it a little bit difficult for them to be King Humbles. But whose were they? We're at the Ristinge Strand, which is the beach in Ristinge, and it's actually a blue flag beach, which means it's a really great place to go swimming. There is a toilet house behind me right next to the beach, so if you're parking at the main parking lot, you'll be able to get to the toilet building. We are actually going to be walking from the main parking lot to a northern parking lot along the coast because we are going to be looking for the Ristinge Klint, which is the cliff in this area of the island of Langeland. We've taken the marked nature path to find the Ristinge Klint, which is the cliff here in the Ristinge area of Langeland. And we also have this beautiful view of the coastline, which is really interesting because it is lots of big rocks and then grass. There's no sand on this part of the island. We've now reached the top of the Ristinge Klint, and it has such beautiful views down below. When we were at the middle parking lot closest to the Blue Flag Beach, we were able to pick up this little brochure that has a map inside that showed us just where to go and what points were along the way. As we were walking to the Ristinge Klint, along the path there is this gravesite that is 6,000 years old. Today we're at Skovsgaard, which is an old farm. We particularly loved the children's area. There were a lot of picnic tables set up with different science experiments, different activities that children could do, as well as one that had some microscopes. You can look at different creatures and plants, which was a lot of fun. There was also a workshop that they had where you could go inside and see some different things about nature, different types of animals, different types of plants that they had around in that area. They also had an area where they had some animals that you could visit. And the house is huge. I can't imagine somebody lived in that. It's beautiful inside, but it looks like it needs to be restored. Looks like they're asking people to help them with donations to restore this old manor home. My gosh, it is beautiful inside. Though once a home to nobles, it passed hands many times throughout the years. There are many wild and interesting stories that come with the Skovsgaard estate. One even being with one of the owners being kidnapped by trolls. No matter what the history, you can learn so much about life during the 18 and 1900s by visiting this manor home and farm, where you get to see so many displays within the manor home. I particularly liked the area where you could actually dress up in period-style clothing. You could pretend that you were either the lord, the lady, or one of the servants of the home. We're also going to be checking out some of their barn buildings just to see what's inside there. At Skovsgaard, they have two separate exhibitions about tractors and carriages from the 18 and 1900s, where you can learn so much more about what you would find on this farm long ago. I love these little scenes that are created behind me. It's like you're all of a sudden in a small Danish village. Here is the truck for the baker. And from the tractors that I saw, it's actually still a working farm. It's organic and it has a lot of fun activities for kids. You can see a little bit of Danish history in the big manor home, as well as with the tractors and the other machineries that they have. This is a really nice place to spend a day. And they even have a cafe where you can get a bite to eat and even an ice cream. Today we are touring Langeland and the town of Rudkøbing. It's the biggest town on the island. It has a lot of really beautiful buildings and shops. We really enjoyed our time in Rudkøbing, the main town on the island. There were so many beautiful buildings to see as we walked around, so many different styles of architecture, and it was so interesting also to see the very colorful buildings that they had there. They were all very diverse and offered up their own history, and it was just really interesting to see compared to the other areas of the island. We even found some really great antique shops there that seem to go on for miles. It's a really great place if you are interested in finding some old treasures in Denmark. I also loved all the butterflies that they had on walls and hanging from building to building. It was a really beautiful addition to the town. We also found a lot of statues of Hans Christian Ørsted, who is the father of electromagnetism. You can also find his museum there on the island. We're at the Tranekær slot, and right next to it is actually a garden with walking path, and we're actually looking at some beautiful trees to look for some art that's in the forest. There's a lot of different things to see here. We decided to check out the gardens that surround the Tranekær slot. And though there was a small fee for adults, we actually had quite a nice walk there during the morning. We found a map right away, and there were many different things to see within the forest. Lots of things that were man-made, but also some really beautiful climbing trees. They had an art display that had been out there for quite a few years. Different things with rocks and with branches and twigs, and we were really excited to explore and see every last one of them. It was a very unique experience for us being on that island, not something that we anticipated finding. And of course, once we got a little bit farther along on our walk, we had some really beautiful views of the castle. For those interested in touring the castle, they have times during the summers when it's available for a fee. And in fact, a count and countess still live in the castle. We're now visiting the Tranekær church. You see behind me, which was built in 1880. And this is very different compared to a lot of churches in Denmark because this one is yellow. The Tranekær Kirke, or the Tranekær Church, is actually dating back to the 1400s, but much of it was rebuilt in the 1800s. This is where you would find the graves of those who had lived in the castle, and it was actually owned by the castle until the Second World War. It was built in a Gothic style, which is very unlike what you would see in other parts of Denmark. Thanks for coming along with us on our trip to Langeland. If you want to know more inside tips about visiting the island, head over to My New Danish Life. The link is in the description to get more information on how to have a great trip.